lesson. I record the lesson and then I post it to my YouTube channel. And then if students miss the lesson, they can go back and watch it, or if they want to review it again. So that it's another learning step, but it's been really helpful to the students to have that. So yeah, as I mentioned last time, the weekend I spent doing my equity training and typing up the syllabuses. And also, to be quite honest, I've just been painting nonstop and doing these lessons nonstop since we got on here. And I'm feeling a little depleted and just felt like I just wasn't feeling the desire to paint. So for the palm tree lesson, I have a YouTube video to share with you guys, and I want to talk about it. And I think it's really helpful to look at a variety of different artists and how they paint and their approaches and their techniques, because you can take a little bit of different teachers, you know, of things that you find helpful or resonate with you. So I found this really cool, really peppy, older Japanese guy who I totally fell in love with. He's so cute. And I'm going to show you his palm tree lesson. So let me get that up here. Before we get started, did anybody have any other questions or comments before I get into the lesson? We're all good? Oh, are you back, Ivy? Yay. Can't hear you.
Yeah, there I am. Okay, yes, I'm back, and I'm so happy to be back. It's beautiful.
I know, you hit it perfectly. You were gone for the June gloom, and now you're back for the beautiful summer weather. So.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled to be home. It was a long drive, but I'm here. So I'm great to see everybody.
Yeah, glad to have you back. Okay, let's get this baby up.
はい、今回はヤシの木を描いてみます。まず、細長い幹があって、その点に中心があります。その中心を元にして、放射状に葉っぱが出ています。例えて言えば、花火のような形ですね。
I'm going to be pausing this periodically just to comment on it. So here he's showing you the basic structure of the palm tree and making the analogy of it to like a firework, which is a great analogy, but you're not going to be using this for your drawing. He's just showing the structure of it.
これですね。ココナッツツリーはここに実がついています。このような葉っぱの放射状な形。でも実はこの木には奥行きがあります。例えばこの葉っぱ、こっちに出てきてる。他の葉っぱは少し奥にへっこんでる。というような立体を意識しましょう。今回は太陽は右上から来たという考えで描きます。こうですね。大きな立体です。手前に出た葉っぱ。さあ、これで描いてみましょう。はい。では、描いてみましょうね。まず形でしたね。こんな形です。では、塗ってみます。
So when you guys do your drawing, I'd like you to actually use, like he might be working out of his head, I think he is, but I'd rather that you find a photograph of a palm tree and actually look at it so you can see the different leaves. So you can see this leaf coming forward and the ones in the back, okay? Don't just try to do it out of your head.
最初に一番手前に来るこの葉っぱです。これから描いてみましょう。使う色は、まず緑っぽい色なんですけども、あと黄色っぽい色がですね、筆を割って塗っていきます。
A lot of artists will use a fan brush, which kind of spreads out in the shape of a fan, and for this type of texture. And let me close the. I'm sorry. I'm going to play this. I need to take a quick break.
この葉の軸に当たる、これを葉柄というんですけど、これから書いて、そして手を振って、こんなタッチで。ヤシの木の葉っぱは、細長い形するんですけども、その中の一つ一つの葉っぱはとても鋭いんですね。それを描くのに、この筆を割ります。ちょっとイエローが加えますね。バーミリオンちょっと入れましょう。下に来ると少し葉っぱに枯れたような色が入ってますので、こんな感じです。反対側の葉っぱもちょっと描くんですね。では、この考えができましたので、同じ方法でその隣の葉っぱも描きましょう。葉柄を描いてから筆を割って葉を描くんでしたね。一たち一たちがヤシの木の葉っぱを描きますので、伸び伸びとなおかつ慎重に描いていきます。
So I just want to stop for a second and say, what I was saying is if you don't have a fan brush, what you can do is what he did was he took his brush, and you'll notice it's a pretty fat, round brush, and it's loaded up with the paint. And then he just spreads it out with his fingers so that the bristles are spread apart and they'll create this texture. Also, notice, so I know he mentioned certain greens that he's working with, and most of us probably don't have those in our palette. So you'll be mixing up your own greens. And what I want you to notice is how this leaf in the foreground, it's more of a yellow, lighter color because that's coming forward. And notice it's pretty warm. So, I mean, you'll mix up your green here by using a warm yellow and a blue. And I think he mentioned vermilion. If you don't have vermilion, which most of us probably don't, what you can do is take some red and just add a little bit of yellow to it to make up your vermilion. And then back here, in this leaf, it's a different green. So he's not using the same green every time. This one has a little more blue in it, and it's slightly cooler because it's going back in space.
ちょっとまたバーミリオンなどの枯れた色を加えます。はい、単なる色よりも少し変化の飛んだこんな色ですね。人たち描いていきます。
Notice how he keeps, he extends those leaves nice and long. There's a tendency to truncate the palm leaves. They're really quite elegant and long. So be sure to take your brush and extend it. And notice how you can see how the shape of the brush, how he's kind of squeezed, even though this is a fat brush, he has squeezed the tip together to make a pretty sharp, fine edge for those strokey marks. And now the green is even darker and more muted, kind of going up and back.
さらに同じ考えで、だんだん上の方に向かう葉っぱが来ました。この葉っぱは、この辺り、重力の影響で垂直に細かい葉っぱが垂れています。こうですね。でも、先端に向かうに従って、だん 々と、このように水平に向かっていきます。こういう小さな観察も必要でしょうね。ワンパターンにならないように、こういう部分の違いをよく見てみましょう。さらに葉はどんどんと太陽の方向、つまり上の方に向かう状況になってきます。なんですね。もちろん大きい葉っぱもあれば、少しまた短めの葉っぱもあると思います。特にこれから先、この真上に向かうようなあたりですね。ここはヤシの木の中での一番成長点に当たる部分ですので、今から描くこれらの葉っぱは、いわゆる言ってみれば若葉ですね。ですので若々しい葉っぱ、そんな考えで描きます。ここは緑色が中心で、最初に描いた葉っぱのようなバーミリオンなんかはあまり入れません。若葉ですね。若葉のグループです。
Sorry, is he changing the brush every time that he changes the colors?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Is he changing the brush when he changes the colors?
No, he's using the same brush every time. And also, I wanted to point out, if you didn't catch that, he's not using any of the vermilion in the upper part of the tree, because that's all new growth. And the vermilion is to show the older leaves down on the bottom.
So when he uses the vermilion, I don't have experience with watercolor, so maybe this is a very naive question, but the vermilion doesn't stay in the brush. Does he clean the brush in between?
Yes, he cleans it. Yeah, you dip it in, he dips it in the water. If he's done with the vermilion, he dips his brush in the water to rinse it out, and then he dips it back into the green.
Thank you.
Sure. And we have to get through a couple of ads here.
Mamma mia! Say what?
葉っぱもあんまり開いてないですね。
Notice how it's kind of wet, like the leaves are distinct, but yet they're still kind of
今度は
blending together.
下向きになってくる葉っぱですね。
And notice the color change. He's going back into the yellowish green as he comes
随分
down.
ヤシらしくなったでしょ。でここですね。バーミリオン塗っています。ヤシの木なんでバーミリオンですかって思ったでしょ。実はこれが秘密なんです
Look
ね。
at that nice rich
バー
indigo.
ミリオンの上にウルトラマリンを乗っけてみましょう。
Oh, ultramarine.
そしてそのまま放置して、今度はここです。最初に描いた葉っぱの内側。内側は日陰ですので、暗くて冷たい色でそこを塗るんです。この葉っぱの内側を描きながら、今一番手前の葉っぱの日向のところを描き起こしてもいます。これが重要で難しいところです
Here's
ね。
the negative space.
葉っぱの内側の日陰を塗りながら、日向の葉っぱのトゲトゲしたところを描き起こすという作業です。こんな筆使い参考にしてくださいね。これで葉っぱが日陰の内側を持った立体が見えればいいですね。爪で引っかいてもいいます。
I've never done this before, scraping with the fingernail.
そうですね。
New technique.
同じ考えで、それぞれの葉っぱの内側の日陰を描いていきます。こうですね。これは若葉の部分ですね。ここはあまり日陰を強くしなくて、あまり葉っぱのトゲトゲした感じを描きすぎないようにしながら、少しだけ 影と日の歌を描き分けていきます。ここはみんな若葉のグループですので、同じようにまとめてみましょう。
See how adding these darks makes it so rich? So he's doing like a second round with his darks. And he didn't show, I'm kind of bummed that he didn't show this. This is really crucial in the center part. This is a leaf, it's a foreshortened leaf that's kind of coming forward. So it's a lighter green kind of in the middle. And he has a little bit of vermilion, and he did that scratching thing with his fingernail. But this is pretty important. Oftentimes the center of the palm tree is kind of neglected.
日陰ですね。しっかりとできます。常に日向の葉っぱを残すように日陰を塗るということですね。こんなふうに引っかいてもいいですよ。だいぶ立体っぽく見えたでしょ。こちらもそうですね。ただ、みんなどの葉っぱも同じぐらい日向と日陰があるんだということはないですね。日向が多いところ、日陰が多いところです。この葉っぱはですね、こちらの方に向かってくる葉っぱという考えです。ですので、日陰はなおさら強めですね。
There's that center one that's coming toward you.
どうでしょうか。
He's really detailing that out. で、雰囲気ができているところで、 So a third layer, he's
雰
doing
囲気を
another
強めるため
layer
に、
of
ここら
with
辺
his
も
darks.
さらに、これは手前の葉っぱですね。日陰を強くして。これですね。実はですね、これは枯れた葉っぱなんですね。ヤシの木というのは、垂直に上の方にあるのが若葉の部分。古い葉っぱはみんなこうやって下の方に、なってしまうんですね。なので今これもう枯れてしまって、もうすぐ幹からボトンと落ちるような、そういう葉っぱを描こうとしているんです。ですから、バーミリオンを下に入れたわけですね。同じように枯れた葉っぱといえば、例えばこれです。これは枯れた葉っぱでも、奥行きのある向こう側の方にある葉っぱとして描いています。ですので、あまり枯れた茶色っぽい色は入れすぎないようにして、単純な下向きの暗い葉っぱとして描きます。ずっとこうすると表情豊かになりますね。これで若葉も枯れ葉もできたところで、この葉っぱを一番手前に来る葉っぱでしたね。ここをシャープに書き起こしましょう。日陰をしっかり入れながら、一本一本の細かい葉っぱのシャープな形ですね。これ、しっかり書き起こします。
See that contrast he's getting?
ここは、このヤシの木の幹の日陰の部分です。
We are getting the whole team, yeah?
ですので、手前に来る葉っぱの日向の形を書き起こすために、いろいろな日陰を活用するわけですね。次に、幹、ちょっとボコボコした幹の質感を日向部分ですけども、書きます。
So he's got one strip of a dark on the shady side and then more lighter yellowy gray. And that now he's going in while it's still wet and putting some darks in.
絵の具体的になったでしょ。この葉っぱですね。
Putting some
一番手
bright,
前に来るんです
bright
かね。
green, kind of
色
brightening
の
up a
変化させ
little.
ましょう。枯れた色、それからまだ新鮮な緑、そして強い日向、
See all those greens?
この葉っぱがぐっと手前に出ればいいですよ。さあ、これで出来上がりです。
Notice the contrast between this lightest, brightest green. He's got the lightest, brightest green sandwiched between the darkest darks. And that's what really makes it pop forward, right? Isn't he cute? I love this guy.
はい、今回はヤシの木を描いて
So
みました。
modest.
ポイントはこの放射状に出る枝ぶりですね。そしてその枝の奥と手前、特に手前に出てくる枝の表現です。いかがでしたか？あなたもぜひ描いてみてくださいね。それではまた。
Isn't he so cute? Oh. So he did basically 3 layers, 3 rounds.
These are beautiful, and they remind me of the guy who did a lot of Caribbean painting. Just famous Winslow Homer.
Oh,
think.
yeah. Yeah.
I think this technique's it has a little similar results, and it's just, the painting itself is beautiful.
Yes, it is beautiful.
It's, yeah.
I'm just going to show you one more thing before we get out of screen share. This was my little abstract palm tree that I did a couple sessions ago. I grabbed it out of my trash. I just wanted to show you what I ended up doing with it. I collaged this yogi woman. This is kind of me during quarantine time. So,
sticking your head in the sand.
Just seeing the world from a different perspective. So, yeah. So he did just a palm tree on white paper without any kind of environment. And you can do that as well here if you like, but my suggestion is to put it in a setting. So, do some kind of sky and sea maybe with a little bit of sand, and maybe do a few of them. So you turn it into a painting rather than just an exercise or a practice. Again, get a really good photograph of a palm tree that really shows the explicit leaves, so you can really see the shapes of them and the colors. So does anybody have any questions or comments about that video? What did you think of it?
Carissa?
Yeah.
It's Lorinda here. Hi, I really like the video. One question, if we're gonna paint it in an environment, it seems like it'd be smart to do the sky first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Keep it super light so that when you paint on top of it, the blue doesn't influence your colors too much. You can get away with that here because obviously the greens has blue mixed in with it, but keep your blue sky pretty light. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's, if I were going to put the palm tree against a blue sky, I would definitely paint the blue first.
He seemed to put in, he kind of sketched in the structure of what the leaves were like before he started to paint.
Yeah.
I would think that that's kind of important rather than try to make up the structure as you're going along.
Definitely. Look at the photo of the tree and draw in the each individual leaf. You don't have to do all the different, leaves coming down from the main branch, but just put in the general shape and movement of the, the spine of it. And you can indicate the direction that the leaves are going. Remember that the upper leaves that are growing up, the leaves, the stalks that are shooting up, the leaves hang down because of gravity, right? So just keep that in mind, that the leaves are going to be going in different directions depending on how the stem is growing.
I noticed he said that also that the top leaves are the youngest.
Yes.
And so they're the darkest and the stiffest.
Yes. And they don't have the vermilion in
Yeah.
them. It's a different color.
Yeah.
He mentioned,
Go ahead.
sorry, he mentioned something about a different color regarding where the sun is coming from, but I didn't get that.
So the light was coming from the upper right side of the page. So the shadows would be more like on the left, and down below the leaves. And so you noticed how when he did the trunk of the tree, how he did the left side dark and the right side lighter, because the light is coming from the right. So all the dark shadows are going to be toward the left and down from the shapes of the tree.
Thanks.
Sure.
Carissa, someone in our class last week mentioned a watercolor pencil that dissolves.
Yeah.
I have trouble if I draw very lightly. Once I get painting, my eyes aren't good enough to see my pencil because it's too light. And then
you can either use a darker pencil. You notice his pencil showed through, right? He didn't care that his pencil mark showed through. And a lot of artists, it shows the process.
Right. Okay. So
especially in the looser style, it just becomes part of it.
Part of it.
You can either use a darker pencil so that you can see it, or you could use watercolor pencils if you want.
Okay, and that is something you can just get down at, downtown store.
Yep. They'll definitely have them. They're just water-soluble color pencils.
Perfect.
Aqua,
Okay.
I think they're called Aquarel, or they have different names, but.
Okay, thank you. I'll try them both.
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing how that palm tree looked so three-dimensional.
Wasn't it?
Like you
So,
could just jump and touch it.
So what made it that way for you, Simi? Could you tell?
Yeah, sorry. The fact that he took 3 goes at it, I think helped.
Yep.
He sort of had his base, and then he incorporated a new element. And then at the third time, it just came together so cool like.
Yeah. And he started with his, like main colors of the leaves, which were the lighter, the greens. And then the second round, he added the darks, the shadows. Yeah. And then the third round, he incorporated even more darks with the ultramarine and the vermilion, which are going to cancel each other out and just create a really deep, dark neutral. So he got quite dark, and it's the contrast, that made it look so 3D like that.
When he introduced that red, I said, oh.
I know, that was bold, right? Putting that vermilion down. I put some vermilion down. Yeah. Just went for it.
That was cool.
Yeah, he's definitely a real loose, confident painter. It takes a lot of confidence.
Linda's got her palm tree up there.
Oh, there's a palm tree.
I was going to say, I like to paint directly looking at a palm tree instead of a photograph, but you can't, they're so tall, you have to be back from such a distance to see what he actually was seeing. So
right.
Kind of interesting how, but I thought his idea of and I'm trying to learn to do this, is putting an arrow where the light source is so that you don't get mixed up and just have fun doing all different colors of leaves, and then it doesn't look like anything real because there's no light source. So, and with palm trees, there are different planes where the light is falling on the flatter part. So kind of interesting. I like the way he used his brush and then scratched in with his.
Yeah, I haven't tried that. I invite everybody to try that technique and see.
Because the paint was pretty wet, so
it was pretty wet.
The scratch mark would stay in, the paint would sink into the scratch mark pretty easily. So
yeah,
looks like fun.
Yeah, it did look like fun, and he was really consistent with the light source, the consistency of the dark shadow.
Yeah.
But he built it up in layers, and oftentimes it was still wet when he went in. You know, by doing those rounds, you allow the leaves to at least partially dry, so that if you do it all while it's still wet, it's just going to all blur together. So you want to keep the leaves like, you know, there's a flow to it, and a looseness with all that water, and a freedom, but yet he kept the distinction of the different leaves. And that comes with allowing drying time, especially before you add the shadows into the leaves. Those were pretty sharp, distinct edges for the most part.
Will it work to use a hair dryer in between layers?
Yeah, if you get impatient, if you're wanting it to speed up the drying, definitely use the hair dryer. Or I have a sunny deck right outside my studio. I just stick it out in the sun for a couple minutes if I want to speed up the drying time.
Carissa, would you say that last layer, which was really the darkest layer, I was trying to, at first you mentioned negative space, like that's the negative space. I was trying to figure out what, is it the shadow from the leaf above it that was coming down onto, I was trying to figure out what that layer was. It was shadow.
Yeah.
But was it shadow like between leaves, or was it the shadow of the leaf above coming down? You know, he didn't have something to look at. So he was doing this from his head, saying this would be here, this would be here. What was he thinking? How did he know?
Well, do you notice how old he is? I'm sorry, I was trying to get that. He has a lot of practice.
Yes, and confidence, as you say.
He's been doing this for a long time. He's highly trained.
Yes.
You know, and he's practice. He knows what he's doing. He could probably do it with his eyes closed.
Right.
You know, he doesn't have to look at anything. He knows it so much. But yes, the dark color was the shadow to the left and below each leaf.
Okay.
Because he had the light source coming from the upper.
So he just kept it, he put that arrow for us, but in his mind, he
knows
that light.
He doesn't have to put the arrow in for him. He does not need to be reminded.
Right. No, but I agree. I go, oh, the light's coming from here, but then when I get painting, I forget that. So it's something, sort of to put in mind, light at the right, something.
Yeah, you might even want to just put in a little pencil arrow like he did to remind you to keep that consistency.
Do you want to stop recording?
I was thinking you could use a sticky note to put